Dear students, welcome to our online classes. I am Ravi Kumar KR, lecturer in Computer Science, gsipucmysuru College, Mysuru. Students, in our previous session, we were discussing about the chapter Problem Solving Methodology. So, in this chapter, we had discussed the steps involved in problem solving approach or the steps involved in problem solving over computers or through computers. So, there we had discussed the steps, problem definition, problem analysis, design of a solution, coding, testing and debugging. Now, we look into that the types of error in programming concepts. So, in my previous session I had told you about debugging. So, what is debugging? Debugging is nothing but checking our programs for mistakes and correcting those mistakes are called debugging. There are 4 types of errors. They are first one is syntax error, second one is semantic error, third one is logical error, and fourth one is runtime error. And there are 4 types of errors in programming. Now let us learn the definitions of all these types of errors. Now first one is syntax error. So what is syntax error? See, you know what is a syntax? Syntax is syntax. The meaning of syntax is it is a set of rules to be followed. To be followed while programming or while writing a program. We have to follow set of rules, that is nothing but syntax. So what is syntax error? So any grammatical mistakes in program statement is called as syntax error. So what is syntax error? Syntax error is nothing but any grammatical mistakes in program statement. So here it means that while writing a program, we have to follow the syntax of any computer languages. So syntax is nothing but set of rules to be followed. So this is syntax error. Now we look into that what is semantic error. Semantic error is nothing but errors in logic of a program. Errors in logic of a program which leads to wrong answers or improper output. So what is the meaning of this? Suppose if at all any problem in the logic of a program, logic is nothing but flow of instructions. So if at all any errors in logic of the program, it leads to, so we may not get the right answer, there are possibilities of getting wrong answer or improper output. So these type of errors are called as semantics error. Next one is logical error. So what are logical errors? Logical error is incorrect translation of an algorithm. It's nothing but logical error. So this leads to unexpected errors in the programs or wrong answers in the program. So what is the meaning of incorrect translation of an algorithm? Students, you know that what is a source code or what is a source program? This one you have learned in my previous chapter. So what is a source code or what is source program? The programs written in any of the high level language is source code, and already you have learned that the source code what you have written, it has to be translated with the help of translator. We have learned different types of translators. They are interpreter, assembler and compiler. So with the help of translator, source program or source code has to be translated into object program, or object code. So any problem or any mistakes in this conversion leads to logical error in a program. So next one is runtime error. So what is a runtime error? Runtime error is nothing but the errors are detected during the execution of the program. During the execution of the program or during run the program. Another word we say to run the program. Runtime errors are the errors which are detected during program execution. So when the program, if you start executing the program, so sometimes we find some errors that is due to semantic error, logical error or even syntax error. Sometimes during program execution some errors are detected that is due to of any of semantics, logical or syntax error, that is nothing but runtime error. Students, so this is the types of error in programming. There are 4 types of errors: syntax error, semantics error, logical error and runtime error. Syntax error is nothing but grammatical mistakes in a program statement, and semantics error is nothing but errors in logic of the program which leads to wrong answer or improper output. Logical error is due to incorrect translation of an algorithm or nothing but incorrect translation during program translation from source code to object code. Next, runtime error. This is the errors are detected during program execution. So this is types of error in a programming. Students, next step in problem solving methodology is documentation and maintenance. Now let us see what is documentation. Documentation is nothing but a reference material. It is a reference material which explains how to use the program, or how to maintain the program for which it has been developed. So what is the meaning of documentation? It is nothing but a reference material. Reference material is nothing but your user manual or user's guide. Right. So what is documentation? Documentation is nothing but a reference material or user manual or user guide for the user. It is for the user, and these manuals explains how to use a program or how to maintain the program for which has been developed or for any particular application. Students, generally, if you buy any product, for example, if you buy a home appliances like washing machine, when you buy a washing machine, it comes along with a small manual that is called user manual in the form of booklets or in the form of sheets. So, what is the use of user manuals to you? It is nothing, and in the user manual, they will mention about the technical specification of the product or different parts of the product, as well as how to use the product and how to maintain that particular product. Similarly, with respect to programming concept, it is also a reference material for a particular program or particular software. You can assume that it is a manual. It says how to use a particular software, that is reference manual or documentation. Here there are two types of documentation. They are internal documentation internal documentation and external documentation and external documentation. Now let us see the difference between these two. So first one is internal documentation. Internal documentation. What is internal documentation? Internal documentation is nothing but it is a documentation for the programmer. It is the documentation for the programmer or the developers, means software developers, and it consists of technical specification, documentation with respect to that particular program or particular application. In this, the programmer, you might have written the steps or stages or tools like algorithm, etc. used in the program along with his remarks. So this is internal documentation. So what is it exactly? This documentation is for the programmer or the software developer which has been developed for particular application. In this particular documentation, the programmer, he might have mentioned about the technical documentation or hardware requirements or maybe software requirement for this particular application. He might have written the steps or stages, maybe algorithm, a plan or design of a solution to a problem, and he might have added his remarks, and this is for his future purpose, or he can use the same documentation for some other application. So this is internal documentation. Now let us see what is external documentation. External documentation. This documentation is for the users, or it is nothing but user's guide, and it says how to use this particular software or application, or they have written information about a particular application. So students, what is the external documentation? It is nothing but a user's guide or user manual. In that, they will say how to use a particular software or how to use a particular application, along with information about particular application, maybe limitations about this particular application. And here also there are three types under this. One is documentation for users. This is nothing but only for the end users. Second one is called administrator's manual. Administrator's manual. This is nothing but one who manage that particular application or software. And another type of documentation is for developers. Developers are nothing but software developers or programmers manual. So external documentation is nothing but the user documents, or it is for the users to know about the particular application and how to make use of these applications or software. And here there are three types. One is user's manual, that is for the end users. Administrator manuals means one who manages the software. He is not a programmer, he knows only how to use the particular software. That is administrator's manual. Next one is developer's manual. This is nothing but a programmer's or software developer's manual. So this is about documentation. Next we move on to maintenance. Students, next step is maintenance. So what is a maintenance? It is nothing but a periodic review of a program, of a program, or modifications based on users requirement. Based on user requirement. What is the meaning of this? Here maintenance is nothing but a periodic review of a program or particular applications, and also modification of that particular program as per the user requirement. So what's the meaning of that? And here, see, suppose if you buy a product or if you buy any of the computer software and here you use it for some time, then after some time you may require some changes in particular software, that is modification. So accordingly, as per the user requirement, the programmer or one who develops software, he has to modify it for his customers or for the users. So here, why it is necessary? Because maintenance is very much necessary, because sometimes it will be outdated, the particular software. Suppose we are using one software today, maybe after 6 months it will be outdated and new softwares will be in use. So that is nothing but outdated. And second one is, and there are chances of some errors may creep in after some time. Means after some time, after using software for few days, some errors may arise or creep into your program, so that you may not use the particular application effectively. So that possibility is also there. Depending on user's requirement, depending on user's requirement, it has to be modified. It has to be modified. So what is the meaning of this? See, suppose if you are using one particular software, after using one particular software for a long time, you may feel that, or users, he may feel that he wanted to remove some of the field in the software, or he may want to add additional fields into his software. So based on his requirement, the programmer has to modify his program for the benefits of the users or as per the user requirement. So this is nothing but maintenance. I'll give a simple example. See, all of you are using a mobile phone, isn't it? And we have different applications or mobile apps. Apps are nothing but applications. When you're using one particular application or app for a long time, maybe after some time, you may get some notification in your mobile to update that particular software, isn't it? So, you need to update the software. So, if you don't update that particular application or app in your mobile, so some of the features in the mobile may not function or may not work properly. So, what normally we do is, we do update those applications or mobile apps. So that is necessary because for the proper functioning of particular application or the software. Similarly, when any program is written or any software which has been developed, and after some time it will be outdated. So it has to be updated frequently. Once the software has been outdated, it has to be updated or it has to be modified. It has to be modified as per the user requirement. So this is nothing but maintenance. Students, so far in this session I have explained you about different types of errors and another steps in problem solving approach or methodology, that is documentation and maintenance. Let me summarize once again this concept, problem solving methodology. In my previous session we had learned about what is problem solving methodology and the steps involved in problem solving methodology. They are problem definition, where we have to define the problem very well, or we have to define the problem in such a way that it should be easily understandable. Next step is problem analysis. Here we have to think of, or the user or the programmer has to think of his requirements. What is the type of input, or what would be the desired output, and any additional information, and so on. Next step is design of a solution. Nothing but the program has to be designed or planned well before start writing a program. That is possible with the help of tools such as algorithm and flowchart. And you know what's algorithm? Algorithm is nothing but a textual representation of solution to a problem, whereas flowchart is a diagrammatic representation of a solution to a problem. Next step is coding. Coding is nothing but writing a program with the help of any of the computer language, that is coding. Next step is testing and debugging. Testing is nothing but checking the program with different types of data and check whether the output is proper or not, and so on. That is testing the program. Next step is debugging the program. Debugging is nothing but checking the program for mistakes and correcting those mistakes is nothing but debugging. So after debugging, next step is documentation. Today I have explained you about documentation. Here this is nothing but user's manual or user's guide, so that it give information about the particular application. And here there are two types of documentation. One is internal documentation, one is external documentation. Internal documentation is nothing but it is a documentation for the programmer or the developers. There they will mention the technical specification or maybe hardware or software requirement for that particular application, and the steps or stages or some formulae and so on, design, algorithm and so on, what they have used in the particular program. That is internal documentation. And external documentation is nothing but this is a user's guide or a manual. It says about a particular product and how to use a particular program or a product. And there also we have three types. One users, that is for the end users, and one for administrators, that one who manage that particular application or a software, and next one is developers manual, that is for the software developers or one who develop a particular application or a software. Students, hope you got some idea about problem solving methodology. We will meet you in my next session. Thank you very much.